Okay, folks, welcome to another video from the Prophet Easy One. In this one, I want to get into. I've been covering a lot of Revelations, and I haven't been going chapter by chapter. There's reasons for that, but I just did one on chapter 12, and I'm going to do chapter 13 today. But before I do, I just want to read a little something here out of 1 Corinthians chapter 13 before we get into Revelations chapter 13. Though I speak with the tongues of men and of angels and have not love, I am become as sounding brass or tinkling cymbal. And though I have the gift of prophecy and understand all mysteries and all knowledge, and though I have all faith so that I could remove mountains and have no love, I am nothing. And though I bestow all my goods to the poor, to feed the poor, and though I give my body to be burned, and have not love, it profits me nothing. So these things I'm going to say here, I'm saying in love because some of this may offend some people. In fact, it might offend over 1 billion people. But I don't care. I'm here to bring the truth. And it's probably going to get more offensive on one of my upcoming videos when I get into Revelation 17, which is Revelation 13 is kind of a springboard to that. All right, so let me start here with the reading from Revelation 13. And I stood upon the sand of the sea. Now first, let me recap. I just did 3 videos, one on let's say 4 altogether. I did one on the 7 seals, the 7 trumpets, and the 7 vials. And they're all interrelated. And then I went on to chapter 12 because of all these people, all these astrologers and stargazers talking about how this eclipse was going to be the sign of Revelation 12. Bull donkey. It has absolutely nothing to do with Revelations 12. But I hope you see my video on that. It's called the Revelation 12 sign and the eclipse. What's really coming? There's nothing coming. Nothing come with that eclipse. That's all from false prophets. All astrologers are false prophets. So I hope you caught those other videos. And basically what that chapter 12 is about is how that God's people are going to be persecuted in the last days. And I wish I could have put a lot more things in there, but as I go on through Revelation, there'll be more things added to that. So now we're going into Revelation chapter 13. And I stood upon the sand of the sea, and saw a great beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon his heads the name of blasphemy. Okay, now, what is this sand of the sea? Let's go to Revelation 17:15. And he saith to me, the waters which thou sawest, where the whore sitteth, are peoples and multitudes and nations and tongues. And the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore, and shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh, and burn her with fire. It says, for God hath put in their heads to fulfill his will, and to agree, and to give their kingdom unto the beast, until the words of God shall be fulfilled. And the woman which thou sawest is that great city, which reigns over the kings of the earth. And I'd like to get into a whole lot more of that here, but we'll get into that when we cover Revelation chapter 17. So, this is coming from multitudes and nations all over. All right, now let me go to another thing here in Revelation 17, because these are just a few other verses that kind of tie in with all of this. It said that the beast rose up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, upon his heads 10 crowns, and upon his heads a name of blasphemy. So he carried me away in the wilderness, and I saw a woman sit upon a scarlet-colored beast, full of names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns. There's those 7 heads and 10 horns again. Now, let's go to, let's back it up to something I already covered, Revelations 12, verses 3 and 4. And there appeared another wonder in heaven, and behold, a great red dragon, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and 7 crowns upon his heads. So we know that this one having the 7 heads and 10 horns is Satan, the dragon. And his tail drew the third part of the stars of heaven, and did cast them to the earth. And the dragon stood before the woman, which was ready to be delivered, to devour her child as soon as it was born. Like I said, Revelation 12 had nothing to do with this constellation. Yeah. But it has to do with God's people being persecuted in the last days. That's what the whole thing's about. And how the Lord is going to help his people. All right, now, I was going to get into some other things here, but we're going to let that go for a minute. I want to be sure I have time to get all this in. And the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard, and his feet were as the feet of a bear, and his mouth as the mouth of a lion. And the dragon gave him his power and his seat and great authority. Now, I'll be honest with you, I don't quite understand yet what this is about with and being like unto a leopard. And his feet is the feet of a bear. I have some ideas, but I don't want to share that with you unless I'm sure. And the mouth of a lion, meaning that he was just loud and boisterous. And like, hey, I'm powerful. I'm the king of beasts. But the dragon gave him his power and his seat and great authority. And I saw one of the heads as it was wounded to death, and the deadly wound was healed, and all the world wondered after the beast. Now, maybe I should back up just a bit. Because this Satan with the 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his horns 10 crowns. See, I mentioned before in Revelations where it says that these spirits, like frogs, came out of the mouth of the beast, and the false prophet, and out of the dragon. And those spirits would deceive the kings of the earth to get them to come after Israel and after God's people. Once again, going back to Revelation chapter 12, where God's people will be the most persecuted people this planet has ever known. And that includes Jews and Christians. All right. So, let's get back to this. And I saw one of the heads. Like I said, these heads are different rulers, kings, that sort of a thing. As it were wounded to death, and the deadly wound was healed, and all the world wondered after the beast. Now this beast here is actually, this head is the Catholic Church. You know, it was wounded and basically killed, but came back. You know, Napoleon, he stopped the papacy. I believe there was one other king that did it one time, but Napoleon wiped the papacy out. It was gone for a while. Of course, they still had all their secret organizations, and they still had their desire to rule the world, which they still have today. But let's go on here. And they worshiped the dragon, which gave power unto the beast. And they worshiped the beast, saying, Who is like unto the beast? Who is able to make war with him? Now, let me go to Daniel here. Daniel 7:7. And I saw in my night visions, and behold, a fourth beast, dreadful and terrible, and strong exceedingly, and it had great iron teeth. It devoured and brake in pieces, and stamped the residue with the feet of it, and was diverse from all of the beasts that were before it, and it had 10 horns. Okay, now, this beast here, and we're going to get into it here in this chapter. There's two beasts in this chapter. One of those beasts is, and I'm sorry to say this, and like I said, I'm not here to offend anybody. I'm just trying to share the truth with you. And we're going to get into it more when we get to Revelation chapter 17. But one of these beasts is a Catholic Church. And the other beast, which we're going to get into here, is the United Nations. All right, there was something else I wanted to get here from that same part of Daniel. Okay. Then I would know the truth of the fourth beast, which was diverse from all the others, exceedingly dreadful, whose teeth were of iron, and his nails of brass, which devoured and brake in pieces, and stamped the residue with his feet. Now, I may be going a little bit out of line here, because once again, this is covering the second beast that's going to be mentioned in this chapter. Like I said, the UN. It was diverse from all the other beasts, which were regular just kingdoms. Persia, Greece, the others. It says, and of the 10 horns that were in his head, and of the other which came up, and before whom 3 fell, even of that horn that had eyes and a mouth that spake very great things, whose look was more stout than his fellows. I behold, and the same horn made war with the saints and prevailed against them. There we are again, back to Revelation 12. They're going to make war with the saints. Until the Ancient of Days came, and judgment was given to the saints of the Most High, and the time came that the saints received the kingdom. Thus he said, the fourth beast shall be the fourth kingdom upon earth, which shall be diverse from all kingdoms, and shall devour the whole earth, and shall tread it down, and break it in pieces. And the 10 horns out of his kingdom are 10 kings that shall arise, and another shall arise after them, and shall be diverse from the first, and shall subdue 3 kings. And he shall speak great words against the Most High, and shall wear out the saints of the Most High, and think to change times and laws, and they shall be given into his hand until the time and times and dividing of times. So 3.5 years, or 1260 days, the time of the tribulation. But the judgment shall sit, and they shall take away his dominion, to consume and to destroy it to the end. And the kingdom and dominion, the greatness of the kingdom under the whole heaven shall be given to the people of the saints of the Most High, whose kingdom is an everlasting kingdom, and all dominions shall serve and obey him. Daniel says that's the end of the matter. Yeah, that's what's going to happen in the end. Okay, now, yes, let me get on with this a little bit farther, and then I'm going to get into some other things here. And it was given unto him, this is the beast, which says, and who shall be able to make war with him? And it was given unto him a great mouth, speaking great things and blasphemies. And power was given unto him to continue 42 months. There it is again. That's going to be the tribulation, where these beasts are going to be after God's people. Really, that's what they're doing. That's what Satan wants. He don't want God's people out there. He wants everybody to worship him, like our government. And he opened his mouth and blasphemed against God, and to blaspheme his name, and his tabernacle, and them that dwell in heaven. And it was given unto him to make war with the saints, and to overcome them. And power was given him over all kindreds and tongues and nations. That's all those people from the sea we were talking about. He's going to be given power, all that. Even right now, the Catholic Church is, calls itself, the word itself, Catholic, means universal. And they're trying to combine all these other religions with it, which they've done since the beginning. Adopting all these pagan religions. That's why we have Easter and Christmas and a bunch of other things. It came from other pagan religions to get people to come and follow the Catholic Church. And all that dwell on the earth shall worship him, whose names are not written in the book of life of the Lamb slain from the foundation of the world. So unless you're one of God's elect, somebody whose name is written in the book of life, which means you're going to get to heaven, then you're going to worship this beast. And if you do worship this beast, you won't get to heaven. So keep those things in mind. If any man have an ear to hear, let him hear. He that leadeth in captivity shall go into captivity, and he that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword. Here is the patience and the faith of the saints. Now, we don't need to go out and be killing. But I do see a time. I see it. Where the saints of God, like he says in here, shall do great exploits. People are going to have to defend themselves. And you have to be courageous during those times. And you have to know that the Lord is going to be there with you to help you. All right, now comes a beast from the earth. This is the one I was talking about. And I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth. And he had 2 horns like a lamb, and he spake as a dragon. Now, this beast, you notice, isn't coming up out of the sea, which is all multitudes and all. This one's coming out of the earth. And this is the one, like I said, what this is the United Nations. A wicked and corrupt organization who's done much more harm than good. They want you to believe that they're good. Here's something from Daniel chapter 8, verse 3. Then I lifted up my eyes and saw, behold, there stood before the river a ram which had 2 horns, and the 2 horns were high, but one was higher than the other, and the higher one came up last. I saw the ram pushing westward and northward and southward, so that no beast might stand before him. Neither was there any that could deliver out of his hand, but he did according to his will and became great. Like I said, once again, this is the UN. They're going to have the power to go out and conquer. To conquer and to conquer. Conquering and to conquer. And who's going to be able to stand before them? According to this, nobody. They have too much military might. All right, let's go on here. Now, and he exercises all the power of the beast before him, and causes the earth and them that dwell therein to worship the first beast whose deadly wound was healed. So the UN is going to cause everybody to worship that first beast, which is the Catholic Church, because they work in unison. See, the papacy, there's like 1.2 billion people that follow him, and so many of them are deceived to believe that he is like God. He's not. He's just a man. In fact, he's not even a godly man. If you look at the history of the papacy, it's terrible. I mean, they killed 50 million Christians. In the 500 years of their Inquisition and calling people witches, destroying the Bible, trying to burn all the Bibles. They didn't want people reading Bibles. They wanted people to listen to them and to believe them and to treat them as God. That's what they wanted. They had, let me see, at one time, well, put it this way, they were given, by Constantinople, they were given the Catholic Church was no longer just a religious entity, but a political entity. And now they're the world's smallest country. They have ambassadors all over the world. All the kings of the earth come and bow down to the Pope and kiss his ring. Why should they be doing that to somebody who's a political leader of a little country? See, Satan is giving the Catholic Church power. It's where Satan's seat is. Yeah, they have Satan's seat in the Vatican now. I don't know if you've seen that. Look it up on the internet. Big, massive, demonic dome with all this stuff all around it. Satan's seat sitting in the Vatican. Oh boy. Now, in 380, I don't know what the name, there was an edict or something passed, and they say that their church can make or depose kings, and that the Pope is above the law. Nobody should be above the law. But these people, especially through their Jesuit order, they want to take down and depose kings. Boy, those Jesuits, they're so bad. You need to, every one of you, to be aware of this, need to look up the Jesuit oath. Google it. See the oath that they take. How that they're willing to go out and kill kings by poison, by slitting their throat, by bullet. Whatever it takes to help the papacy. They're at the beck and call of the Pope, and they are willing and do go out and kill people. They were behind the deaths of Abraham Lincoln, John F. Kennedy, and a bunch of others. All right, I don't want to get into too much of these things right now about the Catholic Church. We're going to save some of that for when we get into Revelation 17. Besides, I got to have time to get through some of this. But, in fact, I'm going to go on a little bit further, and then I'm going to back up to something else. And he does great wonders, so that he maketh fire come down from heaven unto the earth in the sight of men. Oh yeah, the UN's going to have all kind of weapons. They've got all this technology now with that blue, whatever it's called, all the chemtrails they're putting in the sky. Yeah, they can do that. And they're going to make that image of the beast too, and make it seem alive. Let's get on to that. And he deceived them that dwell on the earth by the means of these miracles, which he had power to do in the sight of the beast, saying to them that dwell on the earth that they should make an image to the beast, which had the wound by the sword and did live. So they're going to make an image to the Catholic Church. Probably an image of Mary. They want you to pray to Mary and not to Jesus, and to pray to all these saints. Oh, that is so wrong and anti-biblical, not just non-biblical, anti what the Bible says. Says, and he had power to give life unto the image of the beast, and the image of the beast should both speak and cause as many as would not worship the beast should be killed. So they're going to be killing people who won't worship this beast. And that's why God warns us that you're going to have the patience and faith of the saints. Because you don't want to take that mark. And let's see why. Let's go to the next chapter. Revelation 14, 9 through 12. And the third angel followed him, saying with a loud voice, if any man worship the beast and his image, and receive his mark in his forehead or in his hand, now keep in mind, this is the very next chapter from the Bible, the same shall drink of the wine of the wrath of God, which is poured out without mixture into the cup of his indignation, and he shall be tormented with fire and brimstone in the presence of the holy angels and in the presence of the Lamb. He's poured out his wrath without mixture. In other words, man, it's coming full strength. And the smoke of their torment ascended up forever and ever, and they have no rest day and night, who worship the beast and his image, and whoever receives a mark of his name. Here is the patience of the saints. Here are they which keep the commandments of God and the faith of Jesus. And as I've shown you in other videos, those who do take the mark of the beast is who the locusts will be after. It's going to be after all those people who have the mark of the beast. And they're going to be getting stung with the torment of a scorpion for 5 months. And let me tell you, especially you get to the blue scorpions, some of the transparent ones, oh man. They can be so painful. One sting can put you in the hospital for weeks or even a month. They're terrible and painful. And people are going to want to die and won't be able to, because Jesus has the keys to hell and to death, and he's not going to let them die. He wants them to suffer the wrath of God fully for coming after God's people, like in Revelation 12, where he's going to be pursuing the woman and her children. All right, let's go on with this a little bit here. All right. So he's going to make the image speak, and people who don't worship the image of the beast shall be killed. Just like back when, what was it, Nebuchadnezzar made that huge 60 or 90 foot statue, and when you heard the trumpets blow and all these instruments, that you had to bow down to it and worship it, or you'd be put to death. And they did try to get Daniel and his 3 friends. Okay. It says, and he causeth all men, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads. Like I say, this is the UN's agenda pushing this. That no man might buy or sell, save they which had the mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name. Here is wisdom, that him who has understanding count the number of the beast, for the number is the number of a man, and his number is 666. Now I got to admit to you, I still don't understand what that is. I have my suspicions about it, and I have had for years. But until that's confirmed, I don't even want to bring it up, because I don't want to confuse this issue here at all. But now, we talk about how Satan runs the earth. Basically, I mean, you know, he controls the kingdoms of this world. And let's go to, I covered this in another video, but let's go to Ephesians. Here we go, chapter 6. Just to show you some things here about our government, about governments. Eventually, I'm going to do a video strictly on the government, although a lot of mine do touch into it, including this one. It says, for we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. Now, some versions of the Bible like to change this last part where it says against spiritual wickedness in heavenly places. Let me tell you, you're going to have a hard time as a human being fighting spiritual wickedness in heavenly places. But you can fight the spiritual wickedness that we have in high places. And let me just show you something here. Let me see. I want to go to Matthew 20:24. All right. 25. But Jesus called unto him, and said, you know that the princes of the Gentiles exercise dominion over them, and they that are great exercise authority upon them. So you see, we have rulers, governments who rule over us, but then those that are great exercise authority over them. There is a shadow government, and that's where our spiritual wickedness in high places comes from, the rulers of the darkness of this world. Now, and let me show you more of that. Let's go to Mark 10:42. That's funny, because we're going to go to John 12:42 here in a minute. says, but Jesus called them to him and said unto them, ye know, they which are counted to rule over the Gentiles exercise lordship over them, and their great ones exercise authority upon them. Like I said once again, there are people, these wealthy people of the world, and a lot of them come from the Vatican. Probably that's where the people who were in charge of all the money come from. You know, they were the money changers back then. It's terrible. But see, there is spiritual wickedness in high places. There's people who are actually over our government. Now let's go to Luke 22:25. That's not right. Yeah, it is. And he said unto them, the kings of the Gentiles, now check this one out. This is why these people rule over our governments. The kings of the Gentiles exercise lordship over them, and they that exercise authority upon them are called benefactors. A benefactor is someone who benefits from the things that they do. So they have our government doing these things that aren't for our benefit, but rather for their own benefit. Now let's go to that John 12:42. Nevertheless, among the chief rulers also many believed on him, because of the Pharisees, which is where the Catholic Church came from. They did not confess him, lest they should be put out of the synagogue. For they love the praise of men more than the praise of God. And that's the problem with our government today. These people get in office and they don't want to be put out, and they will listen to their benefactors. Of course, their benefactors are going to make them beneficiaries too. They do all kind of shady under the table deals to fleece the American public. But for right now, that's basically what I'm going to say about Revelation 13, is that the two beasts who are in there, and we're gonna cover more of this as we go, especially when I get into Revelation 17, is the papacy and the UN. So I just want to warn you, be careful. And you know what? Stop listening to these astrologers who are talking about, the August or September 21st, August 23rd, all this stuff. Every one of them's a false prophet. All right, now I'm just going to remind you to pray, read your Bible, and repent, for the time's getting shorter every day. The actual beginning of tribulation won't be when the nukes are dropped or when the actual wars start. The beginning of tribulation will be the Revelation 12, when they start coming after, when they come after all of God's people. And remember, that's going to go on for 1,260 days, the time of the tribulation. And after you see that, then you're going to see the other signs happening. All those things that I covered about the trumpets, the seals, the trumpets, and the vials. But first starts the persecution of the Christians. So I want you to be prepared for it. Be ready. And remember, have the patience and faith of the saints, because God will look out for his people in those days. All right. That's it for now. I hope to get back with you soon.